Welcome. I'm Ed. I'm your host of freecircle-fireside, where you will get truth with integrity, insight that's right, and we love people helping people. So let's get into it today. Enjoy the discussion. Let's roll with it. Today, we talk about the lessons of Ross. Yes, the lessons of Ross. Let me expand a little for you, if you will, about the lessons of Ross. Back when I was in middle school, I was a real hellion. Blank, do it just because I wanted to. It's the attitude I had. It's the way I was brought up. I was not a very good child. I liked attention. I liked to cause a scene so people would look at me. So, it took me many years to find that out. And one of those lessons were from a gentleman called Mr. Ross. He was a middle school teacher. You know, back in the 70s, late 70s, early 80s, Mr. Ross was a middle school teacher. And young men like me needed the lessons of Ross. Let's get deeper into the lessons of Ross, eh? Alright. So, a young man, he goes to class. Myself, the young man, back in the day. A really strong-headed young man. Thought I knew everything, didn't need to be taught anything. The lessons of Ross came into my life. I was in a classroom, and the teacher at the time was a little old lady, and her name escapes me right now, and that surprises me, but it's been a long time, forgive me. Anyway, the older gal, she ran a ranch, and she would take the kids out and give tours of her ranch all the time in the summer. And she was actually a really good lady. And I wanted to make her class a clown day that day, because my mind was bored and wanted out of the classroom and wanted to go do something else. So, I was we had these tables. They were 8-foot long tables by 4 foot wide, the type you use for a buffet, the fold down legs. That's what we used for. We didn't have desk there, we just used tables. So, on the particular table that day that I chose to sit at, there was a little hole right in front of me, and it was the size of my finger. So I stuck my finger in the hole, and the curiosity of, well, what if I did this, started entering my mind. So I stuck my finger in the hole and I raised my other hand and I said, "My finger is stuck." So the older gal, she comes up and she says, "Well, she starts pulling on my hand. Well, on the other side, I hooked my finger. So, no matter how hard you pull, you're just pulling on my finger, lifting the table. And when the table lifted, ow! She would look under the table. I would straighten my finger out. One of those games. Wasn't very good. Well, Mrs. Wilson. That was her name. Wilson's Ranch. Right outside of Clarkston, Washington. Yes, Mrs. Wilson was her name. See, sometimes when you get a little bit older, it takes a little longer to find those names when you're getting up there a little bit. However, Miss Wilson says, "Alright, she's a wise woman. She knows what's going on." She says, "Alright, I'll be right back." And she goes to the next classroom over to Mr. Ross. And Mr. Ross comes in. Mr. Ross was not happy. He knew exactly what was going on, and he said, "You're going to stop now." And he grabbed a hold of me, and my finger came out of the hole. And at the front of the classroom was the teacher's office. Yeah, well, the full front of it was glass, so the teacher could see out and you could see in, but they could turn the blinds if they were in a private meeting. So Mr. Ross takes me in there, and he's got his hackboard with him. This is a 2x6, about 3 foot long, and it's got his design on it, and it wasn't funny, that's for sure. Well, being the stubborn-headed kid that I was, we go in to the office. Did not bother to turn the shades down, so everybody was looking at the class clown, getting his due. Alright? I didn't believe it, but by golly, he did. So he bends me over the desk in there, and he lets me have it, the first one. And it's like, oh, I felt it, believe that. But my stubbornness told him, "Is that all you've got?" Oh, and the red in his face went from a slight pink to a boiling bright red. And he let me have it again and again and again. Well, the lessons of Ross sunk in. We are lacking the lessons of Ross today. Children are children, and they will use a mindset of a child. And when you deal with a child like I was, that child needs the lessons of Ross, or else you get what's happening today in the world. When you lack the lessons of Ross, you lack morals. Morality is key in a good society. Oh, let the church bells ring. Yes, I'm preaching. I hope it's not falling on dead ears. I don't preach. I teach. Remember that. Everybody says, oh, you're just preaching. I don't preach. I teach. Because I care enough about you. We lack respect, responsibility, morality in the world today. We need the good men to stand up and be men. There's a calling. Are you going to answer it? Do not let the state control your child. It's time to take control of the family and make the world right again. It's getting out of control. Maybe it is time for the lessons of Ross again. I don't know. What do you feel? Well, that's it for another Free Circle Fireside. Thank you for joining us. You can find us on the web at freecircle.website. You can join in on the live shows or leave a message and we'll get your voice out over the message. The call-in line is 971-533-7805. Join Free Circle, get your voice out, and thank you for joining the Fireside. Ed, Free Circle, out.